What if I told you that the next mass extinction has already begun, and the one responsible looks at you in the mirror every morning? There was no asteroid. There was no eruption. Only human decisions, piled up like invisible ash over the Earth. The planet won't explode all at once. It will fade out slowly, first the birds, then the seas, then us. In the last 5 great extinctions, nature restarted from zero. But this time, the enemy didn't come from the sky, it came from civilization. While the oceans turn to acid and forests are swallowed by smoke, we keep believing that progress is infinite. But what if progress is, in fact, the most elegant disguise for self-destruction? Today, you are going to understand why Earth's 7th extinction is already underway, and what the planet will do when it finally decides that we are the problem. It's not the end of the world, it's the end of the world as you know it. There is a strange silence hanging over the planet. A kind of silence the Earth recognizes. The same stillness that comes before a storm, or an extinction. The ground still seems firm, but the invisible gears of life are already breaking. The air changes, the oceans heat up in silence, and the cycle begins again, the same cycle that has already erased 99% of all species that ever breathed on this world. 6 times, Earth was the stage of the same ritual: birth, growth, and mass death. 6 times the planet reinvented itself, destroying almost everything to begin again. But this time, there is something different. This time, the trigger for destruction is not hidden in the sky, nor in the fire of the planet's depths. It is inside us. Humankind learned to manipulate the very codes of life, to modify the climate, to challenge nature's limits, but it forgot something essential: nature does not negotiate. And maybe, without realizing it, we are opening the darkest chapter in Earth's history, the 7th mass extinction. Birds change their routes, seas invade the land, forests burn like matches. And among the digital ruins of a civilization that believes itself eternal, a question echoes in the void: what if the end has already begun, and no one is paying attention? Before we talk about the collapse that is coming, we have to look to the past, a past in which Earth was, many times, the very executioner of its own creation. The first great extinction happened more than 440 million years ago, when a sudden global cooling turned oceans into ice. The marine creatures, which dominated the planet, were swallowed by the cold. In just a few thousand years, 85% of life disappeared. Then came the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, the end of the dinosaurs, 66 million years ago, when a celestial body tore through the sky and plunged the world into darkness. But none of them compares to the Great Dying, which happened 252 million years ago. A volcanic hell turned the atmosphere into poison. The ground spewed fire, the sky rained acid, and even the oceans became toxic. 96% of marine life and 70% of land life vanished. Earth needed millions of years to rebuild itself. Every time life was reborn, it was different, more adapted, more resistant, but also more fragile before itself. These cycles are not accidents. They are natural resets, where the planet corrects the imbalance caused by its own abundance. And now, for the first time, we are the imbalance. For the first time, a single species has the power to trigger the next great extinction, and the irony is that the agent of destruction is not a comet, but the very intelligence that believed it was superior. History has already shown the script. The problem is that we are performing it again, without realizing that the final act has already begun. It all starts in an imperceptible way. No great blast, no flash in the sky. Only subtle changes: rising temperatures, species disappearing, forests falling silent. Humanity, distracted by screens and technology, doesn't notice that each small loss is one less line in the score of life. The planet doesn't scream, it whispers, and we forgot how to listen. In the last 100 years, the rate of extinction has sped up 1,000 times more than normal. Species vanish before they are even discovered. Corals that took centuries to grow disintegrate in weeks. The air we breathe contains plastic particles, and fresh water, more and more scarce, carries metals and invisible waste. What was once an exception has become routine. Life is collapsing in silence. The difference now is the agent, us. The sixth extinction was caused by forces of nature, volcanoes, asteroids, ice ages. The seventh, however, is born from human arrogance. We changed the climate, altered the soil, destroyed entire ecosystems out of convenience. We created cities that shine brighter than the stars, but that kill everything around them. And the most frightening thing is that the collapse has already begun, and it is disguised as progress. The same machines that brought us comfort are the ones heating the planet. The same technologies that promise salvation create the poison that accumulates in the air and in Earth's veins. The question is no longer if, but when. When the tipping point will be broken. When the planet, tired of enduring, will take the next step in the inevitable cycle, purification through destruction. The signs are already everywhere, but few recognize them. Nature doesn't warn through headlines, it reacts in silence. Bees are disappearing, and with them, the pollination that sustains 3/4 of all the food on the planet. Oceans are more acidic than at any other time in the last 300 million years. Rivers that were once crystal clear now carry shadow and poison. In polar regions, the ice melts at a pace that defies any prediction. Every drop that vanishes raises sea levels and threatens entire cities. Ocean currents, the lungs of Earth, are weakening, changing the climate of whole continents. Tropical forests, which once breathed life, now exhale smoke and despair. Every tree that falls erases an invisible species, a voice that will never be heard again. The balance that kept the planet stable for ages is crumbling. It is not the end of the world, it is the end of the world we know. And even so, we keep acting as if there were time. As if pressing a button, launching a new green plan, creating a new technology would be enough. But there is something we forgot: Earth does not negotiate with human deadlines. When the planet changes, it is not with diplomacy, it is with catastrophe. And every wildfire, every drought, every flood is just a warning. A reminder that the next great extinction is not a hypothesis, it is a countdown. Earth's geological clock does not mark hours, it marks cycles. And the hand, now, is moving faster than ever. Earth has entered a new era, a time in which the human being itself has become a geological force. They call this period the Anthropocene, the time when we stopped being mere inhabitants and became sculptors of destruction. Every city built, every forest cut, every ton of carbon released into the air becomes an eternal record in the planet's layers. Millions of years from now, when someone digs into Earth, they will find traces of a civilization that believed it was immortal. The Anthropocene is the reflection of our obsession with control. We created seas of concrete, skies of smoke, digital deserts where nature is just data to be exploited. We turned the world into a machine, and like every machine, it has begun to fail. Ecosystems are not collapsing only biologically, they are collapsing systemically. When a forest dies, the climate changes, when the climate changes, the seas react, and when the seas react, everything that lives on land suffers. But the cruelest part of this era is the irony: the same intelligence that allowed us to understand the universe is pushing us toward the abyss. We are the only species that understands collective death before it happens, and still, we don't stop. Progress became a religion, and faith in technology replaced respect for nature. The planet, however, does not follow our beliefs. It does not understand growth, profit, or sustainable development. It understands only balance. And every time that balance is broken, Earth responds, slowly, but relentlessly. And maybe, in the future, the Anthropocene will be remembered as the final chapter of humanity. Not for lack of resources, but for excess of ambition. The seventh extinction is not a prediction, it is a reality in progress. It has already begun in places where almost no one looks. In the depths of the oceans, where glowing creatures are disappearing before they even receive a name. In tropical forests, where 2,000 species go extinct every year, without humanity noticing. And in the savannas, where the roar of lions has become rarer than the sound of a drone. The collapse of biodiversity is invisible because it is silent. There are no explosions, no craters, only the gradual disappearance of what sustained life. One bird less, one bee less, one fish less, and the cycle is disrupted. Mass extinction is not just the death of species, it is the collapse of the web that keeps everything connected. The disappearance of bees, for example, can mean the loss of 1/3 of all human food. Without pollination, harvests fail, ecosystems collapse and hunger spreads. In the seas, the decline of corals turns underwater paradises into white graveyards. And with each coral that dies, thousands of species that depended on it to survive also disappear. The northern boreal forests, the lungs of the planet, are burning at record speed. Polar bears wander over chunks of ice that melt beneath their feet. And even so, the world keeps producing, consuming, discarding, as if none of this were connected. But everything is connected. It always was. Life is not a collection of independent species. It is a living network that breathes together. And this network is tearing apart, thread by thread. In the end, the question is not, which species are we losing, but, what will happen when it's our turn to disappear? Amid the destruction, humans found a new refuge: technology. We created machines that breathe, think and produce in our place. We believed that, with them, we could correct nature's own errors. But what we forgot is that these machines are extensions of the same instinct that brought us here, the instinct to dominate, exploit and conquer. That's how the illusion of control is born. We call it progress, but maybe it is only the most sophisticated version of self-destruction. While the planet asks for silence, factories roar. While forests disappear, we build servers that consume the energy of entire cities. The digital world we built demands a physical price: metals extracted from devastated mountains, rivers contaminated by waste, seas full of invisible microchips. Artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and genetic engineering gave us the power to modify the very essence of life. But in every advance there is an unanswered question: how far can we go without erasing what we are? If we are already able to edit the DNA of a species, what stops us from redesigning nature itself in search of convenience? Humanity behaves like an apprentice god, shaping the world in its own image. But every creation carries the risk of imbalance. And when imbalance reaches the limit, nature always finds a way to strike back, whether through climate collapse, through pandemics, or through the simple return of chaos. The greatest danger of our era is not technology itself, but the belief that it will save us from ourselves. No algorithm can replace the cycle of life. No machine understands what it is to be born, to die, and to be reborn. And it is in this abyss between the natural and the artificial that we may be losing something much deeper: the very reason to exist. Earth was never a victim. It is patient, silent, and profoundly wise. For ages, it watched species rise and disappear, empires bloom and crumble. But when balance is broken, it responds, not with anger, but with inevitability. And now, Earth is striking back. The polar ice, which seemed eternal, melts like ancient tears. Oceans expand, swallowing whole islands and redrawing maps. Hurricanes are born where there was once calm. Drought stretches over regions that were once fertile. The climate has gone mad, but it is only nature settling the score. Earth is trying to heal, and to do that, it may have to get rid of us. Volcanoes awaken again, releasing the fury of the underground. Diseases emerge from forests that humans should never have touched. Animals migrate in directions that defy logic. It is the system trying to reorganize itself, eliminate excess, restore the natural flow of life. We call tragedy what the planet calls purification. When balance is broken, chaos becomes the medicine. And, as in every great extinction, life always finds a way, but rarely the same way. Human civilization may be just one more layer in the rocks of the future, a geological memory of a species that believed it was eternal. Our skyscrapers will be glass fossils. Our satellites, cosmic dust. Our voices, lost echoes in radio waves drifting through the void. And while we struggle to keep control, the planet keeps the plan it always had, to change in order to continue existing. The question that remains is simple, and terrifying: does Earth really need humanity to survive, or does humanity need Earth to keep breathing? Extinction was never the end. It was always the prelude to something new. After every catastrophe, Earth was reborn, slowly, patiently, but relentlessly. From emptiness, the unexpected emerged. After the impact that killed the dinosaurs, small mammals came out of the shadows and took over the world. After the great dying, microscopic creatures reignited the breath of life in the oceans. The planet is an artist that paints with chaos, and each destruction is only the beginning of a new piece. But what will be born after us? If humanity disappears, what will come next? Maybe a form of life adapted to radiation, shaped by a hostile climate and acidic seas. Maybe organic intelligence is different from ours, conscious, but without arrogance. Or maybe only silence, until the cycle begins again. Life is in no hurry. It moves in billions of years, not in human calendars. While our species builds machines to gain time, the planet manufactures eternity. And in that difference of rhythms lies the abyss that separates us from understanding. Earth does not need salvation, it needs room to breathe, even if that means wiping us out. The fossils of the future won't be of dinosaurs, but of cables, plastic and concrete. And someday, another form of life may look at these ruins and ask who we were, and why we fell. Maybe they will discover that intelligence, when disconnected from wisdom, turns into poison. And that humanity's greatest mistake was believing it could dominate nature, when it had always been part of it. The cycle will be completed, as always. And when the planet is clean, silence will once again be Earth's language, and time, its greatest ally. Everything that begins, ends. But the end of humanity may not be an explosion, it may be a silent blackout. One day, the last satellite will fall. The cities will dissolve into dust. Buildings will become concrete skeletons covered in moss. Nature, patient and vengeful, will take back what is hers. What we call civilization will be only a memory, a scar in the planet's mind. Earth will not mourn our absence. It will bloom again. New forests will rise over the ruins of megacities. Animals will evolve in freedom, with no fences and no labs. Rivers will carve new paths, and the air will go back to smelling like rain, not smoke. In a few million years, it will be impossible to tell we were ever here. But maybe something deeper will remain, an invisible trace of human consciousness. Maybe our radio waves will still cross space, whispering stories into the void. Maybe some fragment of our music will still echo among the stars, reminding that once there was a species that dared to understand the universe, and got lost trying to control it. The cycle of life and death will continue. The planet will live on, as it always did. The question is not whether Earth will survive us, it's whether we will learn to survive ourselves. And if redemption exists, it will not come from machines or science, but from reconnecting with what we forgot, humility before life itself. The seventh extinction may not be the end, but the beginning of something new. A planet that, by losing us, will find itself again. And maybe, when the dust settles and silence reigns, Earth will finally be able to breathe again, in peace. Because the planet doesn't need heroes. It only needs to be allowed to live. The planet doesn't speak, but it responds. And every wildfire, every drought, every wave that swallows cities is the answer we insist on ignoring. The seventh extinction is not about the disappearance of life, it is about the loss of our own humanity. If the world is reborn after us, it will not miss our machines, our empires, or our arrogance. But it may remember that, amid destruction, there was a species capable of understanding the mistake, and still chose to continue. Now the decision is in our hands. We can be the last line of this chapter, or the first paragraph of a new beginning. If you believe there is still time to awaken, subscribe now. Because the next video will show you what really happens after civilization falls. The end is not tomorrow. The end has already begun.